We're going to do both at the same time. Go ahead, guys.
Well, good morning, guys. Nice to see you all from the other side of the world through the power of the internet.
Good morning.
Most of you heard my story last year live in Summerlin. I was the one who survived the terrorist attack in 2015, and well, actually got a better life afterwards. And a lot of things had happened since my visit to Las Vegas. I spoke to the United Nations in Vienna a few months ago, and to Interpol in Switzerland. So good stuff. I'm going to introduce Arjan. Arjan also has a very interesting story to share. I'm going to give the stage to him to share that, and after that we're going to talk about how we are dealing with this Corona crisis, because we've been through worse before. We are Arjan.
Yeah,
The floor is yours.
thank you.
I'm going to turn the screen a bit.
Yeah, thanks for having us here. I've been to Las Vegas, but I think it's already 93. I didn't become rich there, but that's always a nice place to be on a holiday, of course. I used to work with Doctors Without Borders. It's a medical humanitarian organization. I hope you know that. It's sort of like the Red Cross. And yeah, I'm an anthropologist by study, and I went there first in Uganda, then to Sierra Leone, and later I worked in Tajikistan and in the southern part of Russia with all kind of refugees. And yeah, I really enjoyed my work because I could help other people and I could travel a lot. I could study all kind of cultures, which I liked because of my study. But then I went to Chechnya. I don't know if you know that there was a civil war between sort of the ISIS people, the Muslim rebels who wanted to have their own Islamic state, and lots of kidnappings were taking place. And unfortunately, they kidnapped me. And for 20 months, they hold me really in a small basement. I will show you the place, how it looked like, where they kept me. I have to practice a little bit. So in this basement, they kept me for almost 20 months. So as you can see, it's really small and under the ground. And it was really like a horrible place to be there, because every day could be one day closer to my death. They threatened to cut my throat, like they do, of course, when you're kidnapped. And yeah, I never was in such a hard time before. And I really had troubles trying to find a new balance in my life, because they didn't like me. Of course, I hated them because they took away my freedom. I was completely worried about, are they going to torture me? Will I ever see my mother, my parents again? And also I had a nice life because I always tried to make something out of my life, and I wanted to have it back, but now I was completely out of control, and all my emotions took over, of course. Crying a lot, feeling weak, feeling scared, feeling worried, and I had to find this new way. In the beginning, I couldn't. I was just so angry and frustrated, and then it took me like 2-3 weeks before I could stand up for myself. In the beginning, I was taught to just be like a sheep. That's what we learned at humanitarian school, how to behave when you're kidnapped. But then I found out it doesn't work, because they came up with all kind of questions, and I just said yes all the time, all these social answers. But I was losing myself. I was losing my own freedom. And then I realized I have to stand up for myself. And luckily they asked me to become a Muslim believer. And you have to realize they're all with masks, with guns, with Kalashnikovs. So it's very difficult to give the right answer. But I told them, no, I want to stick with my own culture, with my own belief. I'm not going to take away my freedom because of your violence. And actually that's what made them realize that I was a strong person from within. And actually it gave me lots of respect from them. And from that moment on, we started to find a new status quo, or a new balance. And I, of course, I still had to stay in my room. It was only like 6 feet by 5 feet, only 6 feet high. And I'm higher than 6 feet myself. So I always had to walk like an old man. But slowly, I managed to stay in control of my own situation. I got structure again. Like I compare sometimes with this lockdown, people lose structure, but I found structure. I had to look after my hygiene, look after my well-being. So I sported a lot. I did all kind of sit-ups, all kind of how do you call those things for your stomach? The
Sit-ups, push-ups.
Sit-ups, push-ups. I had a very nice fiancée, so I thought she will be very proud of me if I survive and show up like Arnold Schwarzenegger. And I didn't have any excuses not to practice my sport because it gave me some kind of relaxation. I learned Russian because the guys were all speaking Russian. So I also started to find some new goals in my life, like how can I use this time to develop myself? I asked for books. In the beginning, I didn't get books, but then later they gave me books, and every word which I didn't understand, I really started to put it in my mind, and I asked the guys, what does it mean? So I improved it very, very well. I became also interested in their motives, like why do you want to be someone who is so much involved in your religion? So what does it do for you? So I started more or less interviewing them, which was also interesting. And so slowly, my cabin became sort of my room. I even started to call it my room. And some of the guys, I also gave them nicknames so that I didn't have to say, Mister, can I get this or can I get that? I had to go to the toilet with two guys always standing behind me. They gave me a small bottle to pee in. So all those, this lack of freedom is not brushing your teeth, it's not going to the shower when you want to take a shower, it's not going to the toilet when you can take a shower. So it's really, that's the lack of freedom. So I always call it an extreme lockdown. So for now, it's not so difficult for me to be in this Corona time because I have experienced it before. And slowly, I realized we are all human beings, and they were all human beings, and I'm a human being, and I stood up for my own human beingness, let's call it that way. And I wanted them to accept me as a human being, and which meant that I also had to accept them as a human being and to feel empathy for them as well. And so I started to ask about their stories, and they also had all kind of bad stories in the war between the Russians and the Chechens. They lost wives, they lost children. So I realized I'm not the only one who is suffering. All people have all kind of suffering. And of course, I had my own limitations. I didn't want to become a Muslim fighter. I didn't want to become an Islamic believer. And people always ask about this Stockholm syndrome. Like, do you became friends with them? But I think it's more like respect. How can you gain respect? How can you gain trust? And I became a master in making a connection with the people. Slowly, they gave me more privileges. Sometimes I could cook with them. I remember one night they came into my room, all very nervous. They said, let's go outside. You can get some fresh air, because I never went outside. But I was really scared. I thought they were going to kill me outside. And they blew a hole in my face, and that's what they call fresh air. So I didn't want to go out. But then they said, we can kill you anytime, so just follow us. And I followed them, and from that moment I could get some fresh air every day for 30 minutes, and which was really fantastic. I could see the stars, I could feel the mountain air in my face. We also started to sing together, which was also very interesting. For example, Tom Jones, I think you all know this, the green grass of home. Do you still remember this song? And I also wanted to go home, of course, to feel the green grass of home in my hometown. I wanted to see my mother. I wanted to see my girlfriend meeting me at the train station. And so I sang it, and they didn't understand the lyrics, but of course, this green grass of home, they can really phonetically sing as well. And so I introduced Tom Jones into the mountains of Chechnya. But for me, music was really important because it gave me strength, it gave me happiness, and I learned to find the happiness in yourself. You don't need other people. Of course, it's nice to have other people around, but it's not always needed to have other people around. I will show you also one clip, which was the worst part of my event over there. It's that it took them too long, and they wanted to have ransom, of course. And that's why they have to have a ransom movie. I hope it's not too shocking for you. Yeah, so that was really scary because that could end any moment now, and I'm a bit raised as a Christian, and sometimes I thought maybe, yeah, God is very angry with me, and why do I have to end up in this place? What did I do in my life to deserve this? From the other side, I thought about my life lots of times, and I really could still think it's worth all my life what I've been doing before. Still keeps the balance. I had such a nice and wonderful life that I thought, okay, I've chosen the right path, and if I will ever be released, I will do it again. And that also made me happy that the moment before you die, you can think back and think, okay, I had a nice life. But of course, the idea of suicide, the idea of dying was always there. And then what hurt me the most, that even now with Corona, like in the Netherlands, we cannot, if someone dies, we cannot go to the funeral. And I was also wondering what happens if they kill me and my parents don't find out, and they will start looking for me, or they will continue looking for me all over Czechia, and they will never find me. And with tears in my eyes, I really asked the guys, please, if the moment you kill me, can you at least show the body to the public, so that at least my parents find out. And that actually moved them as well. So even vulnerability can connect people, of course. Luckily, I didn't know, but at a certain moment, after 20 months, they said, we will hand you over to another group, which was for me very scary, because I more or less integrated into the group, and I knew who to trust, who to not trust. And now I was worried that I end up in another group and I cannot trust them, or maybe they start humiliating me or torturing me. But luckily, they put me in a car, in the trunk of a car. So it was really also scary, because I didn't know where were we going to. And then I ended up seeing two guys without this mask on, and they were really scary guys that you don't want to see them in the middle of the night. And they said, yeah, welcome, you're free. I said, free? What do you mean? Yeah, we freed you. You're free to go. And those were the guys who paid ransom for me. I will forever be very grateful to them. And then my life started again. I was in the middle of the mountains, but they brought me back to the capital of Dagestan. And then the Dutch embassy called. They said, yeah, we're going to send a plane. We'll fly you back to Holland. I could call to my parents. I could call to my girlfriend. I called the driver who was with me. So I was really happy. I started singing under the shower. I took a shower because for 20 months I didn't have a shower. Then we're flying back to Holland, and I'm from Rotterdam. And in Holland, there's a big difference between Amsterdam and Rotterdam people, and we don't like each other. But of course, Schiphol airport is in Amsterdam. But I was so happy that I wanted to kiss the Dutch ground. But I thought, as someone from Rotterdam, I can never kiss the ground in Amsterdam, of course. But then luckily, the plane made a turn, and we were flying to Rotterdam, and my parents were there, and I hugged them. My mother is very small, but her arms were so wide. I think it was even twice her size, and she was so happy to see me, which was also amazing. And then my life started again. I was talking to Glenn a little bit. Of course, I went to a mental therapist. He helped me to look into the way if I had problems with post-traumatic stress syndrome. Luckily, I never had any nightmare. Of course, every day I still have memories. I can go to the toilet and think, I'm so happy to be on my own, because for months they were always standing like 3, 4 feet behind me. I can be happy to feel the sun on my skin. I can be happy to talk to my mother, because I've missed all those kind of things. I don't have hair anymore, but I still remember the first time going to the hairdresser. Even now with Corona, we cannot go to the hairdresser. But yeah, I remember that after 20 months going to a nice female hairdresser, it was quite nice. I remember the first beer. I remember all the first things again after my life. And it made me actually, I don't know if it's a better person, but definitely a more happy person, more how you call it, more freedom in my mind. And that's the message I want to give to people. Once you have freedom in your mind, you can have so many opportunities and so many chances in your life. I did all kinds of things. I started writing books. I made videos. I made a TV program. I set up a nice foundation, Free a Girl, because all over the world there's so many minor girls forced into sexual prostitution. And I think that's really something we have to fight. And I'm always very grateful for my Dutch government, the people who got me out of there. That I think everyone deserves some kind of an angel who can help them to get liberty again. And also liberty in our own minds. I think sometimes we imprison ourselves by our fears or our worries or what neighbors think of us. And I think we should have this potential out there so that we do what we really want to do, and that we create things, and that we stop with things we don't want to do, and that we can change the world for a better. And that's why I give all kinds of lectures and trying to stimulate people to improve their life, to improve freedom, and to improve other people's life as well. Ferry, that's in short my story, people. That's my story in short. We want to have a little bit of interaction. I see all your. It's all muted. It's all muted. So if there are questions for both of us, Michael.
Well, that is just clapping in sign language.
Okay.
I have a question. Were you a doctor when you were captured? Were you practicing as a doctor?
No, I was the country manager, so I just was the head of the team, the director of the team. I'm an anthropologist by study, so I'm not a medical person.
And are you returned to anthropology, or has this experience made you not want to go back to that career?
No, I was always very happy that I was an anthropologist, because I could read their culture, I could talk about culture, I could tell them things that they should change because it didn't fit with their cultural traditions. So I'm very happy that I was an anthropologist, but I'm not practicing it anymore. I'm really like a full-time motivational speaker, almost full-time.
I'm trying to figure out after this Corona experience how I can take the experience and learn from it and make more meaning out of my life, and not just return to the greedy, happy way completely.
Yeah, I hope lots of people will do. But maybe you also see some positive signs already, what has changed in your life, and try to stick with that one also. I don't know if you've seen some nice changes also.
Well, I have a great suntan from walking.
Yeah.
You look really good, Linda.
I learned how to do this, the whole Zoom thing, and I've learned more about technology.
Yeah, that's also what we talk about a lot, right? That this Corona crisis, I mean, reflecting back to our ordeals, I mean, my terrorist attack and your hostage situation, that it's very easy to focus on what isn't possible anymore, but you can also try to put the focus on what is possible, like what you did when you were in. I mean, and that's something that everyone can use, that mindset. You don't need to survive a terrorist attack or after being held hostage to understand that.
Yeah, and even with Corona, I'm married, for example, with 3 children, and we grew much more together. We walk every day. I help them with their homework. So you learn aspects of your own family life, which I didn't know before. So that's definitely a good part of Corona. And I hope we can take that into the future as well.
Well, I knew my family pretty well already, because this is my family.
Ferry,
Yeah.
because this will be shared with people that did not have the opportunity to hear you last fall. Would you share a few minutes of your experience and also how you've been able to extrapolate that experience to what you're going through now?
Yeah, of course. In November 2015, it was Friday the 13th, I was with 3 of my best friends. We went to Paris for a concert, a rock show, a band from California. We were tend to see the Eagles of death metal, which isn't as bad as it sounds. It's a easy rock and roll band. And during that concert, there was a big terrorist attack that happened. 3 IS Muslim terrorists entered the room and shot or killed 89 people and shot over 300. So yeah, that was we were suddenly inside a war zone. It really was Paris that night. There were several attacks in Paris. There was a bomb that went off during a soccer match, and there were several attacks on restaurants and bars in the center of Paris. And the death total was around 130 in total. So yeah, that night turned my life upside down. Arjan just spoke about it. He had not as much physiological problems as you would expect, right?
No.
Yeah, I had a lot. I had panic attacks, nightmares, major PTSD, post-traumatic stress syndrome. But it also confronted me with the fact that that life will end one day. Seeing those people getting shot around me, and it really changed my mindset. I suddenly was more thankful for the fact that I live in a country that is free of war. I mean, we all know there are a lot of countries in this world where these terrorist nights, they are a daily thing. And I'm so happy now for the fact, and thankful for the fact that I live in a country where at least we are free of war. And I could, we have a lot of refugees that are coming to Holland. And in the past, I sometimes would, didn't really complain about it, but a lot of refugees came to our country, and I now more understand why they are fleeing their country. I mean, imagine if you live in a country where you have to be afraid that your child steps on a landmine. If you live in a free country, you never take that for granted. That's what I was about to say. So also a story about freedom, but in totally a different way. And after this ordeal, I started to connect with the world. I became friends with the father of a terrorist, one of the terrorists that was shooting at me that night. He contacted me through social media. And it was really, really interesting on hearing a father story who lost his son to radicalization. I mean, he did not taught his son to be a terrorist, but his son killed so many people. And a lot of people blamed the parents for what his son had done, but not me though. It was a very open and warm family. I actually got a text message from him this morning because he wrote a book together with, so he's the father of a terrorist who wrote a book together with the father of a girl who was shot in the Bataclan. She died. So they became friends. I mean, I think that's a huge statement. The father from a terrorist and the father from someone who died. They are talking to each other. And the book they wrote, it is in French, and unfortunately I don't speak French, but the book is being translated this year into Dutch. And I don't know if you know this, Arjan, but they asked me to write the preface. So it's almost like a full circle moment. I mean, it's also still weird that you get a text message through the messenger from a father of a terrorist. We are both cat lovers, and sometimes he sends me a funny cat video. I mean, it's such a normal thing, but it's weird, right?
Yeah.
I think this ordeal made me the best version of myself. I was someone who always victimized. I could always victimize myself in the past. Setbacks were never my fault. And this setback, it was so big, so huge that yeah, something changed in my mind. And I mean, Arjan and I, we both been through a lot. So this Corona crisis, it's
peanuts for us.
But the difference is with this Corona crisis that everybody is in this, and in the past it was just Arjan, it was just me, you know, and now suddenly everybody knows what you are talking about, and that can help, you know. I remember I reached out to Arjan after the terrorist attack because he was, I mean, it's a different experience, but he has also faced, you know, death in the eye, and it heals to talk to people who've been through more or less the same. So also, I mean, there are a lot of entrepreneurs at this time, you know, who are maybe at the cusp, you know, of losing their company. I mean, what do you say to those people? I always say talk to each other. I mean, share. I mean, if you share your grief, it also
helps. Yeah.
It really helps. It's also your message, right?
Yeah, because if people don't know about your suffering, how can they help you? And lots of people, of course, they don't want to share their vulnerability. But sometimes it helps to get empathy and to get assistance. But also structure, like Glenn said, it's the first time we do it in the morning, but lots of people, they don't wake up anymore before 9 or 10, and they play games all night, or they watch Netflix. But I think it's still important. For example, I couldn't brush my teeth for a week because the group who kidnapped me, they didn't have water, they didn't have a house. But then in the second group, one of my first questions in my head was, I want to brush my teeth. I want to keep it because, yeah, maybe it takes 6 or 7 months. And then I was worried to ask about toothpaste because they had Kalashnikovs pointing at me. So I said, please guys, can I have some toothpaste? At the end I asked them. They said, yeah, of course, which brand do you want? And then I got, I always use Aquafresh. And then they bought it for me, and they even wanted to use Aquafresh themselves because they liked it better than their own brand. And now all the Chechen rebels are using Aquafresh right now. So, yeah, it's these small things, but you have to stand up for yourself. And that's what's also my lesson, like structure, hygiene. It's very important, and also still try to. You don't have to have 100% control, but
Ferry, I sent you an invitation just now, Ferry, to a conference on Saturday, and it's a Rotaract peace planning session. I think you both might enjoy coming and attending that. It's a Zoom meeting.
Oh, nice, cool,
thanks.
Great.
I'd like to ask a question. You're both very, very strong men, and your recovery from all of this is just remarkable. But there has to be something in your upbringing, in your back life, in your backstory that gave you the strength and formation that you were able to draw from. Can you reflect on that just briefly, on what the reserves and the mental strength and the interior life that you maybe had before that you were able to draw from to survive and thrive in this horrible situation?
Yeah, that's interesting because we have completely different backgrounds. I'm from a family very stable with 4 kids, and all. My parents were from farmers background, both sides, and they were the first who traveled to the city. But my brothers and me, we all graduated from university. We all got nice jobs. My father, he was a very nice guy, but I always make fun of him. He was always sleeping on the couch after work. So he was not very, how we call it, entrepreneurship. He was like a civilian, like working with the government. And we all became much more outgoing and more entrepreneurship. And maybe that is the basis of good DNA, but also parents who were really doing everything for us to flourish. And I'm really grateful to my parents that they really did everything that we could flourish and go on nice holidays, go to nice universities. And they were always there for us. And I knew they were fighting for me, and they want to have me back. So every moment when I thought I have to give up. No, I didn't think I have to. When I thought I'm giving up, I thought, yeah, but I have to fight also because they want me back. And I cannot give up on them. Of course, I can try to commit suicide or to take a gun away from them and they will kill me. But then I will also make it very difficult for my parents. So if they fight for me, I should also fight for me and we should be reunited. Maybe that's a little bit of an answer towards your question.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm from a very social family. We talk about literally everything. And the difference between Arjan's stories and mine is that his ordeal went on for how many days? 600 days?
600.
And mine was only 30 minutes. So it's a totally different situation. And when you survive a terrorist attack, you have to talk about it. And that was something that was in my system. I mean, we talked always about everything. And that really helped me, just sharing, opening up. I'm a very open person. I used to be a physical therapist and I worked in the hospitality industry. So that really helped me. Those skills, those social skills really helped me post terrorist attack. I think there's also a question in the chat here, right? Oh, bye. I'm going to go now. Okay. That's not a question. Well, I have a question.
Any other questions?
I have a question for Arjan. Was it hard for you adapting social-wise when you got back to reality?
Yeah, when I was kidnapped, I sometimes thought that people forgot about me because you feel neglected, you feel like maybe their life goes on. But when I came back, I was very famous. I was the third most famous person in Holland. That's what they said after Johan Cruyff. He's a football player, and a Dutch singer who Frans Bauer, but you will not know him. and so people were so wonderful and warm and social that they offered me all kind of gifts, free beer, free food, holidays, these kind of things. There were lots of interview sessions, which I also thought it gave me back some structure because I didn't have structure in my life. And my physio, my mental coach, he also said you should go back to have some structure again in your life. But in the beginning, I just wanted to enjoy life, to go out, to go to the restaurants, to go on holiday, to see all kind of friends. And then I started writing a book, and that helped a lot to get structure again. But I always compare it with, I was really in a bad situation, like almost in the hell. And then if you come back to Holland, it feels like heaven, and that makes it easier to come back.
Yeah.
If you go from a bad situation to a good situation, and I can enjoy water from the tap. I can take a shower. Sometimes I'm at the toilet even today, and then I think, oh, I'm so happy that I'm alone and no one is watching me. So of course, yeah, it was big happiness for me, which made it easy. And then of course my mentor coach, after 6 months of doing nothing, he said, and now you start writing a book, and now you're going to give lectures. So he was the one who forced me back into.
And does freedom have a different meaning for you now?
Yeah, definitely. For me, freedom is that you really see the opportunities and take the opportunity to do your next step. And of course, my kidnapping also made sure that I'm strong and mentally strong, and that I can fall down again, because lots of people, they're afraid to fall down. And I know when I fall down, I can stand up again, which makes it easier to do new things. And yeah, like I said, I think it's also important to help other people to get freedom again.
And at the time when you were in the hostage situation, were there happy moments?
Yes, yeah. Sometimes, not cooking, for example, reading books, just memories about the past, but also sometimes funny moments with the guys. For example, they promised to buy a TV for me, but then at a certain moment they said, yeah, we don't have money, but at a certain moment there was a very nice, interesting serial on Wednesday afternoon, and after 11 weeks it was really the best serial I ever seen. And then, yeah, it was about a group of friends in Moscow who became very big mafiosi. But then there started rumors about me being released, and I really thought, yeah, but I want to see the end of the series, and then I go home. So those moments were also there, yeah, for sure.
Before we end this wonderful session, what's the situation with COVID-19 in the Netherlands? And secondarily, what's your perception of what's going on in our country?
Oh, the last one is a tough question. I'm going to answer the first one. Well, the situation now is that June 1st, the restaurants will reopen with minimal capacity, like 20% max. We are allowed to go to the theater again with 30 people max, and cinemas and concerts and they will scale it up to 100 if the virus doesn't lives up again, because we have very little casualties at the moment. I think yesterday we had 15 people who died from corona. So that's, I mean, it really went. And how you guys are dealing with it?
But why so few? Why so few in the Netherlands?
No, we had the tip already. If you look at,
we had a peak already.
Yeah.
We peaked in March, I think.
18th of March. But if you look at the numbers, we have more dead people per million people than your country. So of course the number is bigger because you have like 30 times more people living in or 22 times. Like Spain, Italy, it was really, really bad. But
it's hard to compare to the United States, because we talked about it, Glenn, when we started. Every state is at least a country compared to Holland. You cannot view the United States as one country. And I think that might be a bit the problem.
Yeah, because here in Spain it's different, in Italy it's different, Belgium is different. But I think if you look at the death toll, it's really Spain and France and Italy that's doing much worse than even the United States with your federal government that doesn't do too much maybe. But our government was really strict, but also giving lots of responsibility to the people. Like we should stay home, but we're allowed to go out, but not in many groups, and most people stick to it. So they give us freedom in our own decisions also.
We were never in lockdown.
Really?
Yeah. They asked, I mean, if you can, please work from home, but nobody would. Like in Spain, you couldn't go out. I have friends living in Barcelona, they could not go out for 2 months. And I don't know if you ever been to Barcelona, the houses are so tiny, there are no windows. Oh, I would lose my mind.
Yeah.
But Glenn, how do you feel your country is handling it?
Well, as we talked about, it's hard to come to grips with the fact we're a federal system. And again, we have 50 different solutions. And for better for worse, the federal government is not maybe acting as some previous federal governments might have. But I don't want to get into the politics of it. It's a very issue. But
positivity.
As we were talking about, we've had not a unique situation, but because our economy is so dependent on one industry, and overnight that industry closed down, everybody suffered tremendously, same time economically, but the other side of it was that we all were pretty much isolated to our homes instantly. To a degree, even before the state government imposed certain restrictions. And GPS technology has shown that no state in the nation for a very long period of time, might be changing a little now, stayed at home more. We got the only A+ rating in the country statewide in terms of maintaining a stay-at-home ethic. As a result, our numbers are relatively good. They've declined, and outside of some horrible stories about nursing home deaths, we've been proceeding in a very deliberate way. And of course, now the challenge is that the entire casino industry is poised to begin opening up. And so the challenge and the mystery will be what happens as this industry simultaneously begins to open up. And people will come from other states and from other nations. So our fingers will be crossed. Do we have other questions?
Yep.
Yes. Who paid the ransom?
The Dutch there was a big issue. The Dutch government, they said they gave a loan to my company because they don't want to pay themselves. They only facilitate. And my company didn't have the 1 million when they needed the 1 million. But then my company didn't want to pay it back. So, because there was not an agreement signed at that moment. So there was a big, how you call it? The judge had to come and he decided that it was 50-50. So 1 million was paid, luckily. Yeah. And of course I know you shouldn't pay, but once you're kidnapped, you of course you want people to pay for your freedom.
Sure.
Everybody always asks about the money to him.
Yeah.
There's always someone who asks.
Especially in Holland.
Frankly, I'm curious. Go ahead.
It's because I was also raised on the farm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I always tell them, in Holland there are 16 million people, so everyone paid like 5 cents. And I say, if people don't agree with paying ransoms, I can give you back my 5 cents. They always stay quiet. Yeah.
It's funny because I was curious, like, for example, what you think the hostage takers did with the money, but I also want to ask my question of Ferry as well. After that is how your relationship with your French friend is, the woman who took you in. That was a very moving part of your story as well.
Yeah, I skipped that now. Yeah, that night when I was running through the streets of Paris after the attack, I escaped the war zone, and this stranger took me into her home. She laid me on a couch with a blanket and a cup of tea to calm me down. Yeah, we are still very, very good friends. She and her family, I visited them over 10 times the past 4.5 years. Now they became like family, and it will be like that the rest of my life. I'm sure of that.
Yeah, it's very interesting. She wrote a letter to him, which he showed to me.
Yeah. Oh,
and
I should have brought it.
Yeah, it's so moving that because when he tells it, you see his side of the story, but she writes how he walked into the bar with all kind of blood on his body from different people. So it was really, really touching what she did and how she saw him. And yeah, it's an amazing woman. It's she did a very nice, how you call it, nice job.
Yeah. She is an angel.
Angel, yeah, I can imagine.
And you had a question?
Barry, I had a question for you. I just wanted to compliment you on your Facebook posts. Since you visited our club and gave your presentation, it's been enjoyable watching your life progress and your presentations and your travels. From our little world here in Las Vegas, watching your international travel is quite interesting. But keep it up. I love seeing what's going on. Thank you.
Thanks, appreciate it. Yeah, I was just saying to Glenn that it was my earliest presentation ever, the one I gave to you. It was so early. 7 a.m., Jesus.
Well, whenever you come back, both of you come to Las Vegas, we'll have another party in my backyard.
Oh, it was the best. And we had, I remember I had the best lobster tail ever in the restaurant you guys took me.
Let me took you too.
So,
And Michael provided all the wine for that event, if I recall.
I remember, yeah, he brought his own wine.
Yeah, I had a plan. My first sacrifice, I was telling Ferry, he knew it. I had arranged for a 2-week trip to the Netherlands. I was going to go to 4 cities, and we were going to do it sometime at the tail end of March, early April. And I had coordinated it with 4 different Rotary clubs, 3 of whom speak in English. While that was canceled, I'm looking forward to being able to maybe next year.
2021.
And then see now, not just Ferry, but Arjan as well. And I look forward to that in the Netherlands.
Yeah, you're welcome.
This was really nice, guys.
Okay.
Stay well, everybody.
Any other questions? Otherwise, we'll say thank you very much. I'll email Ferry with some follow-up, and I can't thank you both enough, and it's a pleasure meeting you, Arjan.
Thank you, Glenn, for inviting me.
Thank you for your story.
we would love to see those books when they come out in English.
Yeah, I'm working on it. It should be in 1 or 2 months.
Very good.
Awesome.
I'm running